Let's talk about these UK election results with our guest Ian Puddick here. British general election results from Reuters, as you can see, bright red for the Labour Party, which picked up 210 seats. The Conservatives took a bath, minus 244 seats. And as you can see, the Lib Dems did okay as well. They gained 60. Keir Starmer will be Britain's next prime minister, with his Labour Party winning a massive majority in a parliamentary election, with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on the end of an historic thumping for his Conservative Party. As of 600 GMT, center-left Labour looked on course to beat an exit poll forecast of winning 410 of the 650 seats in Parliament, an astonishing reversal of fortunes from 5 years ago when it suffered its worst performance since 1935, which they, of course, blamed on Jeremy Corbyn and then kicked him out. The result would give Labour a majority of around 170 and would bring the curtain down on 14 years of increasingly tumultuous Conservative-led government. Many of the biggest names in Conservative politics lost their seat, including former Prime Minister Liz Truss, whose disastrous spell in power during 2022 helped pave the way for Labour's victory on Friday. The pro-Brexit lawmaker Jacob Rees-Mogg, did I say that right, Ian?
Yeah.
Got that? Good. And former leadership contender Penny Mordaunt, did I get that right as well?
Yep.
Look at that, 2 for 2. See, it's easy. Also lost. Sunak and his finance minister Jeremy Hunt retained their seats, the latter unexpectedly. Sunak's party looks on track to undercut the exit poll forecast of 131 seats, the worst electoral performance in its history, as voters punish them for a cost of living crisis and years of instability and infighting, which has seen 5 different prime ministers since the Brexit vote of 2016. So this is the graphic of the vote share. So this is the vote share. As you can see, Labour with 33.8, the Tories with 23.7, and the Lib Dems with 12.2, and then the other parties there with 27.7% of the vote. But if you look at the seat share is wildly out of step with the vote share. Now, I'm assuming, Ian, that's because you don't have ranked choice. You have first past the post. So as long as you get a plurality in each county, you can win 2/3 of the counties with 1/3 of the vote, and you'll have 2/3 representation, even though you only got 30% of the popular vote. That's correct. Okay. So it
is very rare that we make Americans feel better about their fucked up system on this show.
Yeah, right, exactly.
This is one of those rare times.
This makes the electoral This makes our electoral college look fair almost, right?
You think you don't have representation?
Yeah, exactly.
Look at poor Nigel Farage.
That's right.
I mean, however you look at this. You can drill down the numbers, but ultimately it's a win for the establishment. And I'll tell you why it's a win for the establishment, not just because of the numbers. If you look at the numbers, it's a win for reform. But if you, as George Galloway, my friend George Galloway would say, if you look at the Conservatives and Labour today, they're both cheeks of the same backside, and you could fit a cigarette paper between them. So the reality is the establishment wins. What was Keir Starmer's first priority? Becomes prime minister. He has a meeting with the US, has a meeting with NATO, and he immediately confirms all the same policies. No, there wasn't any mention about working people, the UK, the economy, the healthcare. The first priority is more war.
Yep. And Ukraine. He mentioned Ukraine, like first sentence.
Straight away.
Yep.
Straight away.
Now explain to our American audience, ideologically, what are the Lib Dems? Because they had a good night, right? What are they?
I'm not their spokesman.
No, ideologically. Like,
well, if I could just add to that question, because it's interesting, because people are a lot of outlets are ascribing this result to the fact that the Tories took a bath because the reforms ate into their vote count, right?
Absolutely.
Which is true. I mean, if you look at this, I mean, the reforms absolutely did eat into their vote count. They got a big share of that other party vote, which is 27 and change. So that definitely hurt the Tories. However, the same thing happened.
And I mentioned, so Nigel Farage's party, they got over 11% of the vote, but 4 seats.
4 seats
on the same principle we're talking about.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's right.
But in
So-
terms of the vote share, it seems like the same thing probably happened to Labor because the Lib Dems had a good night, and that you have to figure probably ate into Labor's count, right?
Yeah, so lots of the independents ate into Labour's share of the votes.
Right.
So the vote was split, which allowed the Lib Dems to come in with less votes but gain more seats, if that makes sense. But you know, a very, very simple overview. The Conservatives are the Republicans, or like the Republicans.
Right.
The Democrats are like the Labour Party.
Right.
And the Lib Dems, to answer your question, are like the Labour Party, but very liberal, very, very woke, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I see. I didn't realize. I had the impression they were like the Joe Manchin, the third way Democrats, but
No,
basically they're a cultural identity politics party. They're a party that's more extreme on that.
The leader was asked, "Can a woman have a penis?" And he said, "Of course."
There
was no, you know, well, it depends on the context. Let's discuss. It was, of course.
Now, in terms of
we were
economic
talking
policy,
about this offline, Keir Starmer punted on that when they asked him that.
Right.
I mean, the Labour Foreign Secretary David Lammy. I posted his tweets about Donald Trump earlier. I can't remember if I did it yesterday or this morning. I can't remember, and they're scathing about Donald Trump, and he's got to now meet and do business with him, which is quite funny. You know, he was on Sky News, and he was saying that a man can grow a cervix.
So that's the Labour Party, though.
That's the Labour Party.
So the Lib Dems.
Hang on. This is what role does this person play in the Labour Party?
Foreign Secretary.
The Foreign Secretary said men can grow a cervix.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll send you the clip on Sky News.
Well, that's out of his purview. I mean, Foreign Secretary doesn't have to worry about that too much. But I was under the same
I'm not saying he's wrong.
Well, but it tells you a lot about what they're planning for the Ukrainians.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's why they don't mind losing all these men, right?
That's right. Nothing to worry about. Exactly.
Crazy.
So maybe it is within his purview. Maybe that is informing his thinking there. Because I was under the same impression that Russ was. I assumed the Lib Dems were the more centrist version of Labor, which didn't make sense to me because Labor has pivoted so far to the center since the Corbyn loss. And really, they were pivoting that way up until the Corbyn loss.
Tony
They just
Blair.
used that as an excuse to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn. But what happened to the Tories? So, like I said, on the one hand, you tend to look at that as, was it just a matter of the Farage coalition eating into their vote count, or was it something more? Because it seemed like the Lib Dems and some of the independents ate into Labor, and it didn't stop them from dominating.
So the Conservatives have been in power for, I think, 14 years.
Right.
I think your statistics you just showed that had 5 leaders in a very short period of time.
Yes.
In that very short period of time, they crashed. Liz Truss crashed the economy. I mean, my mortgage repayments haven't gone up just a few little points; have gone up massively. It's only now, a couple of years later, they're starting to come down. So for 2 years, I've been paying significantly more. So because they've crashed the economy. So there's a whole host of issues. So let's go back to UK. It's no different to any other country, America, France, or wherever. Normal working people. I went canvassing for George Galloway. I recently went canvassing. I only did it once, so I don't want to make out that I'm some sort of hero, for Andrew Feinstein, who was standing against Keir Starmer. Andrew Feinstein, what a superhero that man is. Mm-hmm. What are people concerned about? Housing, healthcare, education, potholes in the streets, safer neighborhoods. People are concerned about those things. But our governments are more interested in, fighting wars. I think there was that interview with Biden. I can't pronounce his name. Was it Stephanopoulos or something like that?
Stephanopoulos. Yeah.
Stephanopoulos.
Snuffleupagus.
Yeah.
Sounds like a character from like Snuffy from Sesame Street.
Yeah, right. Well, that was Snuffleupagus. Yeah.
But he said, look, we're fighting all these wars. We're busy fighting all these wars.
Yes.
He hasn't got time for people, and that's the problem with the Tories. You've got food banks. You've got, it's just everything is broken in the UK, and there's no money for anything. And without sounding like an absolute communist, there is always money for war. Right. And just people are hacked off. I mean, in 2020, during the lockdown, I got the contract to supply the Ministry of Defence with hand sanitizer because obviously I own a gin distillery. And obviously there were parties in number 10 Downing Street. Now, the Prime Minister, and there was an inquiry into it, what happened, what didn't happen. Listen, if I know what happened, because if I know what happened, they definitely knew what happened. So Boris Johnson, he was asked, did you or did you not have a party? It's a yes or no answer. If it's a yes, sorry, we got it wrong. We shouldn't have done. Hands up, I apologize. And you can deal with it. He couldn't answer that question. He had to pay a law firm in London a lot of money to be able to answer that question. It's nonsense. So, it's just
now you're talking about when they had that party during COVID?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, in 2020. So the point is there's a huge disconnect from that kind of behavior and what the public couldn't see their families and all this kind of stuff. And
we had the same thing here. We had the same thing here with Nancy Pelosi, with our beauty parlor, AOC going to events. It was the same here. One rule for we, another for
yeah,
me.
Of course. And it's that huge disconnect. And then just people have had enough. Now, I know you have issues over in the States with the border. Well, in a very, very much smaller sense, over here, we have boats coming over from France every day, not occasionally, but every single day. Sometimes, a few hundred, sometimes 500, sometimes 1,000, coming in illegally into the UK, and they can't stop it. So what they do is when the illegal immigrants come in, there's been lots of documentaries about it, it's been documented. These illegal immigrants are trafficked in, and they pay people traffickers up to £5,000, sometimes more, to get them into the UK. But once they're into the UK, it's a safe haven. The government puts them into a nice hotel. They get a government credit card called an Aspen card. Now, the government wouldn't do that for working people in this country, so they get hacked off. And if you complain against this, it's a very powerful label. You're labelled a racist. So Nigel Farage has come in and said that we need to stop all of this. Now, Nigel Farage is labelled the right leader of the right wing, a neo-fascist, a neo-this extreme right wing. Is he right wing? Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Is he a fascist, a neo-Nazi? No. And that's the problem. So his message resonated. Now, he's not against immigration. His wife's German, but he's against illegal immigration. So we've gently talked about this in the past, in a very minor sense. I won a major case 10 years ago against the police when they brutalized me. So I'm against the lack of police accountability, but I'm labeled by many in the mainstream media as anti-police. I'm not anti-police. Recognize the importance of the police. I wouldn't want to be a policeman. I don't think they get paid enough for what they do, to be quite frank. But when they do corrupt things, they cover it all up. And I'm against that. And when you say that to any normal person, they go, of course, I'm exactly the same. How could anyone not be? Right. But the mainstream media would label me as anti-police. It's just not, which is absolutely unfair. So it's interesting times. And I guess it's all politics, hanging a tag onto your competitor in a political sense and labeling whatever you choose to smear them.
Right. So it seems like what you're saying is that the Tories kind of ran their reputation into the ground,
absolutely,
which I understand.
Yep.
However, going back to what you said at the top, they seem to empower the other ass cheek, right? How is Labor really markedly different? Because this Keir Starmer guy, I think a loaf of white bread would call him white bread.
Well, so will Keir Starmer, so with the Conservatives illegal, and I just want to concentrate on illegal immigration. Immigration is great for our country. It's made our country as it has many, many other countries. But Keir Starmer's or Labour's policy on illegal immigration, nothing's changed. So they'll still be coming in,
Well, it seems like on Ukraine, nothing's changed. It seems like on all these issues,
no, absolutely.
So what do they vote for? I understand they were pissed at the Tories, but what do they vote for?
It's a win for the establishment.
Right.
As I said, this was a win for the establishment. If you want to look at the numbers and roll out the numbers, Nigel Farage he's the official opposition now. He's only got 4 MPs or 4 or 5 MPs. because he's saying something very, very different, if that makes sense.
So the Lib Dems, will they just form a coalition with Labor? Is that what'll happen?
Yeah.
So then, what's the name of the Nigel Farage party?
The Reform Party.
All right, so they're essentially going to be the opposition rather than the Tories, or
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it seems like none of that's going to matter. Look at Labor. I mean, they have a majority. I mean, as far as the eye can see, there's almost no coalition necessary, is there? I mean, can't they just pass whatever they want?
Yeah, they can. They can pretty much get away with whatever. But from an ideological or a party political perspective, with ideas and goals and aspirations, Reform stand out from the crowd as saying something different, whereas the Conservatives, as it stands at the moment, the ideologies are very much the same. They're going to have to reinvent themselves now.
Right.
They're going to have to reinvent themselves and have to come up with some really good ideas. And then people will say, well, why didn't you do that when you were in power? I mean, it's just nonsense.
Please clap.